So a few weeks ago, I made this wig using a lace frontal I got from my vendor. As you guys can see, the lace is actually really, really good. It's HD lace, but it hasn't really frayed like regular lace. I'm gonna just try not to ramble. I did advertise that I'm gonna be making wigs. This is my stitch work. I don't know if I'll ever make wigs by machine. And I mentioned to you guys that I don't think I'm gonna do that because the way I try not to cut wefts, I just don't feel like it's gonna be the best thing to do on a machine. So I'm just gonna continue to make them by hand. I'm not trying to do too much when it comes to making wigs. Maybe make like one a week just to have it be manageable with my schedule. But yeah, so you can see how I folded here. But y'all know I use good quality materials. That's the other thing I was saying. Like, there's things I'm gonna spend money on. I have decided that I'm gonna have to invest in some packaging, probably for wigs, not for bundles. Bundles can go these on Amazon packages if we don't keep it a bean. But just something to, you know, put the hair itself in, so it's not just like sitting in a box if I have to ship it to you. However, this particular wig, this video is really about, this wig is too big. So when I put the wig on the mannequin head to sew it, I stretch it out. I think I forget that I got a peanut head. So in the back, you can kind of see how it's folding right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stitch it to make it a little bit smaller. But rather than doing like one big stitch and kind of having this hump here, I'm gonna go through each one and just kind of, you see how it folds here? Stitch these little folds together. So it's like I'm doing multiple little hems. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to show you guys how to do that on camera because of the angle that I'm gonna have to sew it at. But we're gonna try to figure it out. All right, y'all. So I got some things figured out. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, right? Because I feel like this is gonna be difficult to do in the manner in which the angle I'm filming at. I am going to get, y'all know I have a pin cushion. So standard pins. And I am going to pin them together. And the reason I'm doing it like this and not all in one big fold is because I just don't want it to be like one heavy fold. So I don't necessarily know if I'm gonna pin it the same way on both sides because I don't believe the wig falls the same on both sides in the back, if that makes any sense. But I don't know if you can see, I'm trying to do all this as best as I can on camera. So I'm gonna pin it right there. Obviously it's gonna be pinned even because, you know, OCD. But it's going to be pinned in some places on one side. Like you see how like over here it's folded. So wherever it's naturally folded at is where I'm going to pin and stitch. So right here is a natural fold. So I'm going to pin and stitch and add a couple stitches right here. I'm probably going to pin this over here on this side also. So I'm just kind of going along with where there are folds at. This is why I said I can make large frontal wigs, but I can't make large closure wigs. I mean, I've tried it before, but I feel like the person's head was probably watching this, friend, I'm sorry. It's probably really big and it didn't work out. So I'd rather, like I said, sign myself up for things that I know I can really commit to and deliver on. So let's go in here. Pin that right there. So I'm just going through and just pinning in the places where there are folds. And I'm going to do this throughout. So I'm going to come back to you guys when I'm finished pinning so you can see what I've come up with. So this is what I have pinned so far. I'm going to go through stitch just and try it on just to make sure. And the alternative to not the alternative to not doing this would be just redoing the whole wig. I don't want to do that. I'm not in the mood for that. So we're just gonna go in and do those little stitches, lift it up, and hopefully, you know, it's enough. I'll come back to you guys, show you what it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna try to show you what I'm doing as best as I can. It's really, really difficult, but I'm pretty much just going through, see how it's hemmed, and I'm just stitching through, get up close, stitching through the loops. Put my light back on. Light done died, yo, light done died. I'm just stitching through the two folds, the one at the top, the one at the bottom, and I'm just doing that in various places of the wig. So I'm gonna take this pin out, and then we're gonna do the same thing again. Did I just tangle my thread? I sure did. All right, so you're kind of like it's kind of like if you've ever hemmed like a pair of pants or anything like that, it's the same thing. So I'm just taking, and I'm just doing that in various spots. This way it's not just one big fold, which will be heavier all in one place. Now, I did this myself. I definitely stretch out the cap too much. But yeah. So we're just going in here and doing that. And I'm doing that throughout the whole wig. So that's pretty much all that I'm doing rather than one big fold. You can see how it looks up here. I clip like the batteries. All right, so you can see how it looks right here. Doing this, and I'm gonna go through and, like I said, stitch a lot of these folds together. So I'm gonna show y'all the finished product, but you get the gist of it. And it just kind of you know, all these little things will pull and it'll make the wig just sit better on my head, more comfortable, wouldn't hang too heavy to the back. So this is what it looks like finished. I didn't do too much, I just tried it on. So I pretty much just, as you can see, the black thread here, it's just hemmed in these areas, and then I hemmed here in the back. And now it's still not tight all the way, but it's definitely fitting a lot better. And the reason that I didn't tighten it all the way is because, you know, I want to leave room for if my hair does get back to where it was at before, and you know, it has space to fit. So it fits definitely a lot more comfortable than it did before. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. I don't know if you guys recall, this is my Freedom Couture wig. I have been adjusting it so that it can fit my head properly. I went ahead and cut off that excess in the back. And now it's time for me to hem or tighten it, because this wig is big. There's no way this is a standard medium. This is why this is not my preferred cap construction. So what I'm going in and doing is trying to figure out how I'm going to stitch this to make it fit the way I need it to fit. So what I ended up doing is kind of like, I don't know if you've ever had like jeans taken in at the waist, but I'm just pretty much just going ahead and doing that same thing, but just applying it to the sides of the wig cap, just so it can fit a lot better. Because I'll put an illustration on the screen so you guys can see what I was experiencing before if I can find it. But it was pretty badly gapped in the back, so it definitely had to get adjusted. So definitely a different process than the way I adjusted the other wig, because this is just big in a different area. So again, I hope these videos are helpful. Again, I'm not a professional. I just do whatever I feel works for what it works for. So not everything is going to be streamlined, but this is what this particular wig called for. So it just called for like a little bit of a kind of like a fold over, and then I stitch it together, and then I reinforce it at the sides. I'm going to try to zoom in so you guys can see what that looks like, but always making sure that when I'm stitching, I loop around unless I'm going straight through and straight back through. But again, this is just what it works for this wig. Maybe in another video, I will show you guys what it looks like in the back, or if I get myself together, I'll show you in this video. I'm not sure when I'm going to put this video out. It is now Monday, so hopefully it'll be out today. Maybe Wednesday is my normal upload schedule, but yeah, this is just what works for this particular wig. And both tightening processes, procedures, whatever it is you want to call it, both options came out exactly as I needed them to come out. So again, it's just whatever works for that particular wig, and this is what works for this one, and that's what worked for that one. So once I'm done stitching that part, now I'm going to go here at the side and just kind of stitch it down. I don't necessarily know if I had to do this, but I just like to make sure that whatever stitch work I make, it's really secure and reinforced. So I'm just going along the side, and in doing so, I end up actually having to take it in the back just a bit. And it works. I mean, I'll show you guys the finished look. In terms of like how it looks, you can barely tell. Thread wise, you guys know I only use Coats and Clark upholstery thread. I was able to go into the store without having a color comparison and guess the color that actually, as you can see, works perfect for this wig. So just make sure, again, if you guys are doing anything like this, you don't use like your standard thread, don't use weaving thread, you know, make sure you use something that's strong and that's durable. Like I said, the only thing with this thread is that sometimes it will, I want to say like unravel, but like if I knot it, like maybe I won't knot it good enough so the knot will come out. But in terms of the thread like itself popping, I've never had that issue, and I've been using this thread for years. I'm applying the same principle that I used in the last wig now. It's a little tough, so I'm using a little bit sharper of a needle, but pretty much just going along with the natural folds of the wig and stitching it together just to get a more snug fit. And I do the same thing on both sides. And when I tell you guys these adjustments, these enhancements, whatever it is you want to call it, for both of these wigs have made a humongous difference. So if you have a wig that is too big, this is what I would recommend. Now, again, I'm not a professional. I would say, whatever works for whoever it works for, but this is just what works for me. I looked at it and I'm like, hey, these are the adjustments that it needs in order for it to fit properly. Now, I do think eventually I'm going to make a video telling people how to make a wig a little bit bigger. And again, I always want to make sure that whatever I do is going to be sound and quality work so that it just holds up over time. So I know there's a lot of videos out there, but if you guys have been on my channel, then you know my methods are, even though they might be unconventional, they do work and they work well. So, hopefully I'll get that video up and then you guys can see my technique for that. This is the finished look for the adjustment. If I didn't tell you guys that I adjusted this wig, would you really know? I cut off that little piece in the back. As you guys can see, it looks a lot more natural. This is really how it should be. And then those stitches, they're pretty seamless. Just remember that every adjustment may be different depending on the fit that's needed. But this is what works for this wig.